All right, so now we're gonna switch over to Mr. John Boyega.
Yeah, John Boyega, I guess, had a little bit
Well,
of a heart to heart with Disney,
yeah,
huh?
little come to John meeting, I guess.
I do think it's hilarious, though. Before you get like too deep
Mhm.
into this, one of the things that jumped out about me, or no, that's not right. One thing
I
that
was like,
you're
really?
kind of like, oh, you discovered a little of yourself in this thing. One of the things that jumped out at me about this
That's
article.
right. Syllable that
Nah,
thing
yeah,
out.
sound it out. Like let's hey, is the fact that he was all like at one point like, yeah, I mean, it'd be cool to do a Disney Plus show or something like that. And I'm like, oh, okay, so like back then it was like, you're not going to Disney Plus me, and now that apparently, he's gotten a lot of his feelings out, because I think that's what we were seeing a lot,
Mhm.
especially during the Rise of Skywalker. I think there was a lot of things that were pent up that were bothering him,
Mhm.
and it caused him to act in this somewhat passive aggressive way, especially when he was talking about the Disney Plus thing, and we even brought it up because I think that was a featured story. I mean, it might not have been the featured topic, but I remember we did feature it in one of the segments where we were talking about how he was going off and saying, you're not going to Disney Plus me, and I'm, all this other stuff. And it's like, it's a little uncharacteristic for him.
Mhm.
I mean, it didn't really fit when you look at the way that he was and his attitude in the beginning with The Force Awakens, and even during, after the premiere and all that, to what had happened when he made those comments. It was like, okay, something's going on underneath here, that it's more than just about the movie or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, John Boyega is pretty much he felt a way about his character, Finn being kind of pushed to the sidelines,
I
which
think we all did.
and understandably so. Like I honestly agree with him on that. And
We've gone
then
on record several times of saying, you know what, you created this really cool character
Mhm.
that had a story arc that really could have gone somewhere, and you give us Canto Bite.
Right.
It's and things like that. It's like you could have developed the Finn character. You could have split it off through all the movies. I mean, it did, I will say, and I think you brought this up on one of the shows too. It did have a promising start.
It
Like The
did.
Force Awakens, I thought I'll actually retract that a little bit. They did a pretty good job, I thought, of establishing the story.
Mhm.
It's the problem is when they picked it up in The Last Jedi, he was absolutely wasted through that whole movie.
Definitely. And then you try to make up for it in Rise of Skywalker, but it's not enough time to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's pretty much his issue. And then they also said the 28-year-old, was kind of upset as well as with some of the racist backlash that he faced.
Yeah, I mean, was the idea that he didn't think that Disney like responded in his defense appropriately, or
I think it has something to do with a lot of different things, especially when you're dealing with and we've heard things from other actors being in Hollywood, and some things are done, of course, like more or less behind the scenes, or even they write you a certain way to the point where it's like, okay, you're like, I'm supposed to be like kind of a lead and a star on this thing, and then you kind of push me, the black guy, to the back, basically. And there's he says, I was very honest and it was a very honest and very transparent conversation. There's a lot of explaining on their end in terms of the way they saw things. They gave me a chance to also explain what my experience was like. I hope that me being so open with my career at this stage will help the next man, the guy who wants to be the assistant director of photography, the guy that wants to be a producer. I hope that the conversation is not such a taboo or elephant in the room because someone just came and said it. And we've seen John Boyega, especially doing the whole Black Lives Matter movement.
yeah, well, that's what
And
I was thinking, that maybe this was. I was actually surprised to learn that a lot of it focused on just his character and all that stuff, because I kind of figured maybe it was going to be more about like he felt that he had to go. Because I remember he was actually saying, like, I don't know how they're going to feel about me doing this.
Well, I mean, yeah.
And there was some backlash, actually.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's using his platform to do what he felt was right.
Right, and I don't think he felt... I don't think anybody at Disney said anything to him.
But I don't think he felt support for it, and I think that was it. That was the thing.
Yeah, that was the thing, and I think that's really... I thought that was going to be pretty much like the primary focus of that.
Yeah, and I think but when you couple that with like, okay, he being the only African American actor or it's one of the leads, and his story was the one that was kind of cast aside. Like, okay, we got more with Poe and his whole backstory as far as being a spice runner with that whole, you know what I mean? Like, you kind of got more things with that. You got more screen time with Poe actually having more to do as far as in The Last Jedi when he was with Leia, and like that whole lesson, like, well, you have to learn to lead, and that type of thing. So you're looking at someone like Poe, and don't get me wrong, Oscar Isaacs, he's a phenomenal actor as well, and I don't think he was trying to take anything away from Oscar. However, I think he's still like, okay, we saw what happened with Rey. She's the star of the thing. Okay, fine, but I'm the one that's pretty much been in all the commercials. Like, when we first saw this thing.
Yeah, that's true.
Like the first thing you pop up, it's Finn, in the Stormtrooper fit. One of the big things, you see him with a lightsaber.
Yeah, honestly, the way that he was portrayed, I thought he was going to be one of the primary characters.
Exactly, and that's where he was. That's his whole point. It's like, okay, but then you push me aside.
But you could make the argument though that Finn was kind of... I mean, Rey obviously is the main character,
of
right?
Course.
But Finn was more the main character of the three. He was more the main in Force Awakens, and then Poe kind of took over in Last Jedi, and then they kind of split the difference a little bit in Rise of Skywalker. So, I mean, I don't necessarily know if I agree that was truly like that bad. My whole problem was I just think that story-wise, they could have done more with him.
Well, I think
like when he was featured, in other words.
Well, I think that's his big thing, is that, like, I think that his character didn't get a chance to really develop. And like, even in Rise of Skywalker, when you see like, okay, he had this thing that he wanted to tell Rey. And of course he never says it. Right. So of course, then eventually he's like, oh, well, this is what he was. Well, why didn't we get that in the movie?
Yeah, right.
You see what I'm saying? And so it's just like, once again, it's like, all right.
Yeah, it's because, I mean, if he's talking about he's force sensitive, I mean, it's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, since he already said he was a big deal. You know what I'm saying? So I think like there's a lot of those. That's what I'm saying. Like, his character was so underutilized, but you have him out here in all the marketing. Why put him out here with, in Vanity Fair? Why do you have him in front of, if you're really not going to do anything with the character? And I think the biggest thing is too, once again, with the success, when you look at things like Black Panther, when you see a movie completely comprised mainly of African Americans, and what that did for our culture, for us to see that, and then now you have someone who could be prominent in a Star Wars movie, and you don't use them, it's like frustrating. It's like,
yeah, because if you think about it, back in the original trilogy, after they introduced Lando, he was a prominent guy in Return of the Jedi.
Exactly.
And
he was a big part of Empire, so he's really big part of 2 movies. Yep. And then they used him subsequently in other stuff. He popped up in Rebels,
Skywalker and Rebels. Yep.
Everything, you know what I'm saying? So he's, and so it's like, okay, well, now when I have the opportunity, it's like you're giving me an opportunity and then taking it away. It's almost like being like an Indian giver almost.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of where his
source
of contentment is.
And you know what actually bothers me? What bothers me about Hollywood when it comes to any of the people of color, as far as like acting goes, is they'll capitalize on these actors and or characters and market them and be like, oh, look at us. We're all inclusive and we're this and we're that and we're sensitive to all that stuff. But then when it actually comes to anything, it's almost like when they're done with that and they look good, then they start pushing stuff off to the side.
Well, yeah, even if you look at like, okay, they did the same thing with Cheer It, right? You know, you get Jet Li to go out here and play,
Right.
you know, Cheer It Imwe, and then it's like, okay, because you want to get that Asian culture in it, and because it's not doing well over there. I mean, not.
No, that was absolutely it. It
I
wasn't doing.
I didn't mean to say Jet Li.
Oh yeah, you did say Jet Li.
I don't know why I
didn't you?
said Jet Li. I meant.
Yeah, here we go. Now the Asian community is gonna hate us.
Well, at least he's
views.
at least he's still Asian. I mean, but no.
But if you're Asian and you're angry, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And
oh man, I don't know why I'm drawing a blank today, but he basically
Donnie
plays
Yen,
Donnie
right?
Yen, Ip Man. You're right. I kept wanting to say Ip Man because that's how I know. But it's just like, yes, Donnie Yen. So be the martial artist, right? So
yeah, you were the guy I remember that was talking about. Like I kind of knew who he was, but I remember you were the one that first.
Yeah, exactly.
Really started telling me like
Donnie
all
Yen
this stuff, and exactly.
But
it's Donnie Yen.
I know, right? So,
and that does not sound like an Asian name, by the way. Well, the Yen part does, but you know,
Jason views. But no, it's one of those things where, like I said, I understand. You know, when you have the ability to have this platform. And, you know, people really aren't utilizing you. And, you know, it's like, okay, you know, little African-American boys are looking at like, oh, you know, I could be in a Star Wars movie, but it's like, but you can't have the big part. You see what I'm saying? Like, and that's kind of what.
Yeah, it'd be like, you too could be wasted in a Star Wars film and pretty much used for your, you know.
Yeah, just to say, well, we had one.
Yeah, we had one, you know.
You know, and I think that's kind of where Boyega was feeling, and especially like everything that's been going on in the world, especially in our country, you know, I think that's just, he really kind of took that to heart. And especially like once he started speaking out about it, you know, that's one of the big things, even with the NFL, you know, we knew the Colin Kaepernick thing, where that particular organization were not supportive of that particular movement. However, when you look at other organizations such as the NBA, they embraced it and they promoted it and they rallied behind their people. And I think that's kind of where John Boyega probably was hoping that Disney would do the same. And when he didn't get that, it's like it further just infuriated him, both professionally and personally.
But here's the thing, too, that I think is important is the fact that one of the things that I really like is, and again, because I was starting to lose a little bit of respect for Boyega for a while because it just seemed like he was off the rails, man. Like he was just, it's like, what is your problem, dude? But it's nice that instead of further infuriating the situation, that he actually obviously took the step like, listen, I'm going to come and I'm going to talk to you guys. And I'm going to try to tell you like what's on my mind and, you know, see what we could do. And I mean, that's a really cool, you know, and of course now he's back to being the Boyega that we kind of knew before, where he's kind of like, oh yeah, man. And, you know, I'd love to do a Disney Plus series about Finn. Which is a complete 180 from the whole "you're not going to Disney Plus me." Because when he first said that, I'm like,
"What's wrong with that?" Like,
man, dude. First of all, that's
it almost sounds like
who are you, dude?
You almost sound like ungrateful.
Completely. It's like, you know, I mean, come on now. You're not like Eddie Murphy or you know some like big name star guy that can,
like Kevin Hart or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. You know, or kind of, I mean, even like Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
I mean, now, granted, it's not like he's been in. You know, he's done some weighty movies and stuff like that and some critically acclaimed stuff. And he's been in a lot of blockbuster films. But these are people that actually have a name, have respect and stuff. Like, you know, he'd been just basically in a couple of Star Wars films.
Yeah, he was in the movie Detroit, and then he did, what was it, Knives Out?
No.
Or was it Knives Out 2? Was this, maybe he's scheduled to be a Knives Out 2 or something.
Really?
I think so.
I guess I didn't think you were going to be able to Ryan Johnson him.
He's already been done that.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But I mean, it's just funny to me though, because, you know, at first he had that really negative reaction, which really kind of took me off guard. Like, that's kind of, you know, because at first you're kind of like, okay, you're ungrateful and all that stuff. But it's like the more you think about it, the more you go, I don't know, man. There's got to be something.
Yeah, because he doesn't seem like that type. Because he was so excited.
He was so excited, and it almost seemed like he became disenfranchised with everything. And it's like, okay, well, what's going on behind the scenes now that's causing this? And that's why it's kind of cool that he was able to do this, work some things out.
And then kind of let us know like this.
Now he's, yeah. And I mean, that was, to me, that was a really stand up, cool thing to do. You know, I mean, that's the way you handle stuff.
So breaking news though.
What?
Jason's here.
Oh, yeah, right. Okay. I thought, well, I mean, you know, it's kind of like, look, 12 hours after we go on last week, Sean Connery dies. And then, of course, Chadwick Boseman, right?
Yep. I mean, that was
while we were on the air. So, I mean, you say breaking news now, I'm kind of like, all right, who's no longer with us?
Either that or, we finally figured out who our president's going to be. But
yeah,
anyway.
right. Exactly. There you go.
No, but, man, we haven't seen Jason in a while, so it's good to see him, man. He says, hello there. Sorry I'm late. Trust me, you're not.
Yeah, dude,
not today.
Yeah, we didn't start till like 9:30 or a little after 9:30 tonight because we're in a new place and it took us a while.
Yeah. Ronaldo says the good thing about this is that John probably expressed some of the problems that fans have to the Lucasfilm executive, whoever he is. Maybe Lucasfilm is learning from its mistakes in a way. He also agrees Jason. And he said, not Lucasfilm, I mean Disney. And then Jason says, I felt that Finn's personality didn't fit with the backstory in The Force Awakens. Sanitation, you got a cute boyfriend, really? You're supposed to be the ex-First Order. Why is he the comic relief? And then he also says, it wasn't as bad as The Last Jedi, though. And then, of course, he makes the comment about views. Well, here's the thing. And I can understand why he would be the comedic relief because you got to think about it. Like, okay, in every faction, every military or whatever, like, okay, you got to have people you got cooks, you got people who do that stuff. I could understand why, and everybody, but even when you go into that, like everybody has to go into basic training, no matter what you do. You have to complete basic training. So you learn how to shoot, you learn how to all the different codes, maneuvers, all different, because you never know when you're gonna get. Hey, we need to pull you, and you need to know what to do, at least the basics. Hence, basic training. So I could understand why, like, okay, if he was in sanitation, now, okay, maybe now why he was out there with, the rest of the troopers for this particular mission, I don't know. Now,
that part was weird, but I do totally agree that why do people feel that everybody has to be like this super key role in everything? You know what I mean? It's like there's a lot of workers.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that I liked about the sequel trilogy, actually, because they did this with Rose a little bit too, is they took people who were like lesser. They weren't the generals or the, like the Jedi, if you want to go into like Star Wars lore too, who happen to also be generals actually.
Yeah.
But they weren't like the obvious choices. They were regular people doing the work, because that's one of the things that the novels do so well, is they give you an idea that, the Empires was made up of very human people, and they're just people that were going to work every day. They weren't, privy to the Emperor's big plans or anything like that. Mm-hmm. And the whole Empire is made up of people like this.
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing I loved about the fact that, the comedic relief, it's because, now see, if he was like a Governor Price or Pride or something like that, or one of those type of people, like, okay, I can understand why would he be the comedic relief, or like a Hux or something like that. Even though Hux was a comedic relief, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, Hux ended up being.
But the other thing too, though, is that like when you look at the stormtroopers, you got to think about like, okay, you're a part of this thing.
The clone troopers were making jokes all the time.
Yeah, I mean, like, you're gonna make jokes. I mean, like, and then even when you see it in Mandalorian, those two guys is like, yep, all right, he just killed a bunch of people just for interrupting them. Okay, yeah, you know how these guys are, man. They got to come out here and show who they are.
Yeah.
I mean, it's no different than what you would do, like what we do. I mean, that's what made Star Wars so cool to me, was because it's like it humanizes certain aspects of people.
Yeah, well, and that's one of the things that, and you find that in fantasy a lot of times too. And that's something that a lot of times, I mean, it's changing and it has been for a long time. And I think ironically, it started with Star Trek. Because if you actually watch the original series, it's hilarious.
Yep.
Like, those guys are making all kinds of jokes, and sci-fi up until that point's been very, clinical and straightforward, and everybody's so super serious. And it's like, well, that's not humanity.
Right.
Everybody's going to have, because look, if you take Finn, yes, he was a comic relief, but he had a very serious side to him.
Yeah, especially.
And he was going through a lot of torment during that movie. And then, he got like really, which one? I don't know why I'm drawing. Oh, I know I'm drawing a blank because it's almost midnight.
Yep.
What was the one where he just like, he started kind of going off, like he was angry about something? You know what I mean? It's like,
he's like, why does everybody want to go back to, why does everybody want to go back to Jakku? Force Awakens, he was kind of like,
well, that one he was sort of torn and he was doing it. Then The Last Jedi, he was starting to, I know he was more serious on that one too.
Well, yeah, he was really upset because, he trusted Benicio del Toro's character.
Yeah.
And, he realized like, okay, I'm putting Rose in danger. Even his whole thing, like every time he tries, and that's the thing about him, like every time he's trying to get away from it, like something keeps pulling him back. Whether it's Rey, whether it was Rose, electrocuting him and making him unconscious, and then there was always something. And I think that he started to take responsibility for certain things, especially, and then even by the end of The Last Jedi, when he was like, all right, I'm going to sacrifice myself. Like, he's really just trying to like own and try to find his way. And it's hard because you don't know who you are, because and that's his story, is because in the very beginning they say, well, what's your name? He's like, I don't have a name. This man doesn't even have a name. He was a number. And so it's like everybody else has so he had to learn how to be part of humanity himself, because he was more so just a part of a group.
Yeah, he had basically lacked individuality.
Yeah. He wasn't allowed to think for himself because the Empire told him what to do. And he doesn't know anything else because they got him when he was a baby. So it was just like...
Yeah. So Ronaldo is like, at least the possibility of seeing Finn again opens, at least in an animated way. Yeah, I think that would be cool. I think, though, that we could get a live action type of thing. Also... Speaking about animated, saw that holiday special trailer. Yes, I did.
Oh, you finally saw it?
Yes.
Man,
I forgot to bring that up to you.
Oh, man.
I'm glad you brought that up, Ronald. I totally forgot to bring that up. Yes. That looks really good, actually. Yeah. Like, it looks hilarious, but, it actually looks like it's a really cool...
story.
Yeah, it's a story. It's something we never really seen in Star Wars before. I think it's going to be cool. I know it's coming out on... It was Netflix, right?
I think so.
No,
it might be Disney Plus.
It's got to be Disney Plus. Yeah. But did they give a premiere? Either one of you guys know?
November 17th.
Never mind. Oh, it's coming out soon then.
Yep.
Yeah, look at me finding things out while we're actually doing the show. Okay, so Jason. The Scout Troopers were a different kind of comedy. I'll grant them that. Instead of cracking one-liners like the Marvel movie, the Scout Troopers are just acting natural and making fun of Star Wars tropes. Well, that's a point that we've been making forever, is that was one of the things actually that we did not like about The Last Jedi, was that they were going a little bit too into Marvel humor territory.
I found that more like with Poe than anything.
Yeah, well, but
Poe was more
again,
like that than Finn. Finn is more. Finn is just kind of like, I think, and when you look at, the thing is, when you look at Finn's character, once again, I think it's just, if you look at the character of Finn, like I said, he's not really, he's kind of like that socially awkward kid.
Yeah, and that's the thing. See, what you got to look at is the fact that Finn was being natural and everything.
To the character.
To the character, exactly.
Right.
That's the way an awkward character that has no individuality, he's kind of learning... it's almost like that droid that learns to be human, like Data. Look at me. I keep bringing up Star Trek in a Star Wars show, but...
or even K2SO.
K2SO, it's kind of like, right. Finn was actually, his humor, everything was true to his character.
Right.
when Poe started doing some stuff.
Yeah, now Poe, when he's pulling up on the X-Wing, he's like, yeah, I'll hold.
Yeah,
okay, now that's
that was all Marvel humor, and
yeah, that's something like you were just waiting for Tony Stark to come out.
Yeah,
of nowhere.
It doesn't really fit in Star Wars at all, and that was one of the problems that I had with a lot of the jokes that were in The Last Jedi. Whereas The Force Awakens felt very Star Wars to me.
Yeah,
all the humor in it felt very Star Wars to me. I mean, I guess you could say that maybe there were certain things that went a little bit. Like it was almost Star Wars humor on steroids a little maybe. And I could see where that could take you out of something.
Well, yeah, he was just, Poe was just trying to be cocky. And
I mean, even Finn's thing.
But Finn, to me, like, I just felt like Finn was just more like, I felt like his was more organic.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's just like, okay, you know.
But what I'm saying is I could see why somebody might, because of the way that it's written, I could see where, because it was more like the original trilogy had truly organic humor.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in The Force Awakens, like when, you know, the whole thing where, you know, he's trying to get BB-8 to, you know, give him the information so he can look good to Rey, and then he's doing the thumbs up, and BB-8 does the lighter thing, which is totally hilarious. And it was Star Wars-ish, but it was sort of like hyper Star Wars-ish.
Yeah, okay, that part, yeah.
And it was more like it was more like a bit.
Yeah.
Whereas the humor in the original trilogy was very situational. It fit whatever the situation is. It wasn't like a comedy routine. And I can see where somebody like Jason, I won't get to some, I know he's been commenting, but I'll get to some of them in a second. But I could see where somebody like him, maybe the comic bits and the routine feel to it, might have been a little bit out of place in it.
Yeah.
It's just that the comedy bits were Star Wars humor, but the fact that, you know,
it seemed a little bit more like a rehearse. Like, here's the funny part, as opposed to just like
you almost are waiting for the laugh track to come in.
Right.
You know, and I can see where somebody might get a little bit put off by that, especially because one of the brilliant things about the original trilogy was that Lucas knew how to blend natural comedy and, you know, more of like a real life situation type of a thing and have it be fun. Because remember, his template was Flash Gordon. I mean, this is one of the things that really kills me about people too when they get overly critical about this stuff. It's like, guys, you do remember that one of Lucas's major whole influences was the Flash Gordon 30s serial, which was kind of campy and goofy. And in fact, had Lucas gotten the rights to make Flash Gordon, which is what he was originally trying to do, Star Wars never would have even been made.
Yeah.
It was because he lost the rights and he couldn't make Flash Gordon that he was like, well, if I can't make Flash Gordon, then I will make a movie like Flash Gordon. And that's when he came up with this whole story that we all pretty much worship at the feet of.
Yeah.
But again, even though I'm saying all this stuff, I can understand, and this is, again, where the sequel trilogy doesn't always... It's like, even when it gets some things right, sometimes it gets it right, but in a wrong way. And I could see where that... I mean, for me, I was fine with it. It was still within the realm of Star Wars. Even though it wasn't quite as natural as, like, the original trilogy, I was just glad to have some life, man. I mean, look, I like the prequels a lot. I even love some of them. But those things were more wooden than a log cabin. You know, the acting was really stiff. I mean, even the humor was kind of stiff. I mean, I liked it. Yeah. We all know how I feel about the white pants.
Yeah, yes, me too.
But, you know.
Very well documented.
So I think what a lot of fans were reacting to, particularly when The Force Awakens came out, and this is why I think a lot of us overlooked a lot of things, is because it was just nice to see a really, I guess, natural
Star Wars
kind of thing that felt like it had life.
It felt like the original, because see, the problem was with the prequels, although George was trying to advance the technology, we always talk
green
about
screen.
Yeah, exactly. It looked like you could tell everything was on green screen versus, you know, the sequel was like, okay, now we're using real places again. It gave you the original trilogy vibe and look.
Oh, you had to feel bad for those guys. They're in like this giant huge soundstage that's nothing but green, and then some guy's got something on a stick, and it's like, okay, now you got to pretend like there's this just insane world and all these characters that you're supposed to be talking to, and you know, as an actor, this is kind of new to actors in general, not just these particular actors, but like you said,
I mean,
this
green
is
screen work was just really starting to,
at least to that degree,
to that degree, right?
To that degree, where you're literally the only organic thing in that room, and it's like you're expected to act and react and as if you have, you know, a bunch of people. And I think that this is why The Mandalorian is working so well right now, because they actually have people, and it's LED walls and, you know, using the Unreal Engine, and you get the whole parallax thing going, and it's like you're getting the benefit of having these artificial environments, but you're interacting with things.
Right.
Whereas back during the prequel era, it's just kind of like, yeah, you're the only guy. All right, action, and you're having to pretend.
Right.
You know, which is cool, but I think that going back to the practical sets, going back to, you know, a lot of the practical effects and some of the things felt good. But I will say, by the same token, that even though I don't particularly feel this way, I can understand and recognize why somebody might have been taken out of the experience a little bit with some of the humor that went on, because they felt more like comedy routines than organically placed humor.
Gotcha.
And like you said, scripted. You know, but it was overall, I think it's good though that, you know, Boyega had this clearing of the air, and that maybe we can look forward to some more stuff, because I was really hoping that they would eventually expand on the whole Finn storyline.
Oh yeah, I think they
at some point.
Jason says, I guess I just see humor differently. And then Ronaldo also says, I forgive Lucasfilm and Disney if they finally turn Finn into a Jedi.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about that.
About him being a Jedi?
Yeah, because on one hand, it's one of those things where I could go either way on it. Like, I wouldn't hate it, but it's just kind of like, does everybody on... I mean, I get the way that the whole Force thing worked before, is that everybody has, and, you know, heaven knows we've actually gone ad nauseum on our discussion of the Force. But the idea is, yeah, it's accessible to everybody, and Jedi are the ones that, you know...
Yeah, just harness it.
That harness it and stuff like that. And, it'd be no different than a bunch of people wanting to go into the military. I mean, it's not out of the question. I mean, it's... people understand that. But from a storytelling perspective, it would just be nice to keep some people not... Or I think it would be more compelling if they were Force sensitive without becoming a Jedi. I think that there's some stories that you could tell there. You know what I mean? It's like, well, what if you're Force sensitive, but you don't necessarily want to go down the Jedi path? You know what I mean? It's like you could do some really cool stuff with that.
That's true.
But I wouldn't hate it. So, you know, hopefully we'll see. And they did open that door. All right, well, you know, as usual, what'd you guys think? Are you happy to see John Boyega kind of happy to be part of the family again, or
mending the fences? Yeah,
you know, or have you had enough of Finn and, you know, don't want to see it? Let us know in the comments section.
Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Be sure to follow us on Twitter @HeadToHeadSW. Submit your questions for our next show. Visit our official website at headtoheadswpodcast.com. Until next time, may the Force be with you, always.